There comes a moment after 40 when you begin to realize that your body is no longer whispering subtle hints. It is speaking clearly, sometimes urgently, about what it needs. Energy shifts, sleep patterns change, stress feels heavier, weight behaves differently, digestion becomes unpredictable. And somewhere in the middle of all this, you start hearing about probiotics. You are told they can fix your gut, balance your hormones, improve your mood, and restore vitality. But here is the deeper question that few people pause to ask. Are probiotics after 40 truly the solution, or are we simply hoping that a capsule can solve a much more complex story unfolding inside us? As we age, the relationship between our hormones and our gut becomes more intimate than ever before. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol do not operate in isolation. They move through networks of communication, and one of the most powerful networks is the microbiome living inside your digestive tract. This ecosystem of trillions of microorganisms is not passive. It is active, responsive, and deeply involved in inflammation, immune signaling, stress regulation, and even how your body processes hormones. When hormone levels begin to shift in midlife, the gut often shifts with them. And when the gut becomes imbalanced, hormone symptoms can intensify. This is where probiotics enter the conversation. But here's the truth that marketing rarely explains. Not all probiotics are created equal. Many people walk into a store, pick up a bottle labeled 50 billion CFUs, and assume that higher numbers automatically mean better results. Yet strain specificity matters far more than sheer quantity. Different bacterial strains perform entirely different functions. Some influence digestion, others affect immune signaling. A select few interact with what scientists call the Estrobolome, the collection of gut microbes involved in estrogen metabolism. If that system becomes disrupted, estrogen can either be eliminated inefficiently or recycled excessively, potentially contributing to imbalance. After 40, estrogen metabolism becomes particularly significant. Whether levels are declining, fluctuating, or shifting in unpredictable cycles, the way your body processes estrogen influences bloating, mood swings, fatigue, and inflammatory responses. Certain probiotic strains have been studied for their role in supporting balanced estrogen breakdown, not by increasing hormones directly, but by optimizing how they are processed and cleared. That distinction is critical. Probiotics do not act like hormone replacement therapy. They support the environment in which hormones operate. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, is another key player in this story. Midlife often brings increased responsibilities, career pressures, caregiving roles, and emotional demands. Chronic stress reshapes the gut environment. It alters motility, weakens the gut barrier, and shifts microbial diversity. In turn, gut imbalance can heighten stress reactivity, creating a cycle that feels difficult to escape. Some specific probiotic strains have shown potential in modulating stress responses by influencing the gut-brain axis. Again, not all strains do this. Precision matters. And yet, this is where many people make a crucial mistake. They assume that taking any probiotic is inherently beneficial. But gut health is highly individual. If bloating stems from low stomach acid, adding random bacteria may not help. If symptoms are driven by blood sugar instability, stress overload, or inflammatory dietary patterns, a probiotic alone cannot solve the root issue. Blind supplementation often leads to frustration, wasted money, and disappointment. The real power lies not in taking more supplements, but in understanding what your body is communicating. After 40, wisdom becomes your greatest advantage. Instead of reacting impulsively to every new health trend, you have the opportunity to choose deliberately. Probiotics can be part of a smarter, science-based strategy for hormone support, but only when chosen with intention, guided by specific concerns, and supported by foundational habits like fiber intake, stress regulation, and metabolic stability. The question is no longer whether probiotics work. The question is whether you are ready to approach your health with clarity rather than assumption. But here is where the story deepens, and where most people never look closely enough. Imagine investing months into a supplement, faithfully taking it every morning, believing that it is quietly repairing your hormones, only to discover that it was never designed to address your specific imbalance in the first place. That realization can feel unsettling. It creates doubt. It raises the uncomfortable possibility that effort alone is not enough. And this is where suspense enters the picture. Because what you do not know about your microbiome could be the very reason you are not seeing results. Inside your gut exists a delicate ecosystem that thrives on balance, diversity, and nourishment. When that balance shifts, symptoms begin to surface in ways that do not always appear directly connected to digestion. You may notice stubborn bloating that was never an issue before. You may feel increased irritability or anxiety without a clear external trigger. You may experience changes in menstrual cycles, sleep disturbances, or a subtle but persistent sense of fatigue. These signals are not random. They are reflections of deeper physiological communication between your gut and your endocrine system. One of the most fascinating and often overlooked components of this communication is the estrobolome. This collection of bacteria plays a role in metabolizing and regulating estrogen. If the estrobolome lacks diversity or becomes disrupted, estrogen metabolites may not be processed efficiently. In some cases, they may be reabsorbed instead of eliminated. Over time, this can influence inflammation and hormone-sensitive tissues. Certain probiotic strains, particularly specific lactobacillus and bifidobacterium varieties, have been studied for their potential to support microbial diversity and maintain a healthier estrogen metabolism pathway. Yet even here, context matters. The right strain for one person may not be the right strain for another. Cortisol adds another layer of complexity. Chronic stress does more than elevate a hormone temporarily. It changes gut permeability, affects immune signaling, and can reduce beneficial bacterial populations. When stress becomes persistent, the gut-brain axis becomes dysregulated. Some targeted probiotic strains have demonstrated an ability to influence neurotransmitter pathways and support a more balanced stress response. However, these effects are strain-specific and dose-dependent. A generic formula with impressive marketing claims may not contain the strains studied for these outcomes. And here is the moment of truth that many people resist. Sometimes probiotics are not the first step at all. If your diet lacks prebiotic fiber, the beneficial bacteria you introduce may not survive long enough to create meaningful change. If blood sugar fluctuates wildly throughout the day, inflammation increases, and the microbial environment becomes unstable. If sleep is chronically disrupted, cortisol rhythms remain imbalanced. In these conditions, adding probiotics is like planting seeds in dry, depleted soil. Without preparing the environment, growth is limited. This realization can feel overwhelming at first. It challenges the simplicity of a quick fix, but it also offers empowerment. When you understand that hormone balance after 40 is not about chasing isolated solutions, you reclaim control. You begin to see probiotics as one tool within a larger strategy. You evaluate symptoms more thoughtfully, you pay attention to patterns, you choose strain-specific formulations when appropriate, rather than relying on high CFU counts as a shortcut. There is suspense in recognizing that the answer has never been about taking more. It has always been about taking what aligns with your biology. The question becomes more refined. Are you experiencing signs of estrogen imbalance that suggest estrobolome support may help? Are stress-related symptoms indicating that a psychobiotic strain could be beneficial? Or are foundational habits the real priority right now? When you pause long enough to ask these questions, your health journey shifts from reactive to intentional. And in that shift, you begin to realize that sustainable change does not come from noise. It comes from clarity, patience, and a willingness to understand your body's deeper signals. The real power lies not in taking more supplements, but in understanding what your body is communicating. After 40, wisdom becomes your greatest advantage. Instead of reacting impulsively to every new health trend, you have the opportunity to choose deliberately. Probiotics can be part of a smarter, science-based strategy for hormone support, but only when chosen with intention, guided by specific concerns, and supported by foundational habits like fiber intake, stress regulation, and metabolic stability. The question is no longer whether probiotics work. The question is whether you are ready to approach your health with clarity rather than assumption. The deeper truth is that turning 40 is not the beginning of decline. It is the beginning of discernment. Your body is no longer willing to tolerate careless decisions, and that is not a weakness, but a form of intelligence. It demands strategy. It asks for precision. When it comes to probiotics and hormone support, the smartest approach is not to ask, what is the strongest supplement available? But rather, what is the most appropriate support for my current physiology? That shift in thinking changes everything. A smarter supplementation strategy begins with awareness. If bloating and irregular digestion are your primary concerns, certain strains known for improving gut barrier integrity and microbial balance may be helpful. If you suspect estrogen imbalance, supporting the estrobolome through targeted bacterial diversity and adequate fiber intake becomes more relevant. If stress feels relentless and cortisol seems to dictate your energy patterns, exploring strains studied for gut-brain interaction may be worth considering. But in every case, probiotics work best when integrated into a broader foundation that includes prebiotic fibers, polyphenol-rich foods, stable blood sugar habits, and intentional stress regulation practices. This is where many people overlook the power of simplicity. Fiber from vegetables, legumes, seeds, and whole foods feeds beneficial bacteria more effectively than capsules alone. Polyphenols from berries, green tea, and colorful plants help shape microbial diversity. Consistent sleep patterns regulate cortisol rhythms, which in turn protect gut integrity. Even daily movement enhances circulation and reduces inflammatory signaling. When these fundamentals are neglected, even the most carefully selected probiotic strain may struggle to produce noticeable change. It is also important to acknowledge when probiotics may not be necessary. Not every symptom requires supplementation. If your digestion is stable, energy consistent, and inflammation low, introducing a probiotic without a clear reason may not provide additional benefit. More is not always better. Sometimes the wisest decision is restraint. The supplement industry often thrives on urgency and fear, but your health thrives on thoughtful evaluation. After 40, inflammation becomes a central theme in nearly every chronic condition. Hormonal shifts can amplify inflammatory pathways, especially when compounded by stress and metabolic instability. The gut microbiome influences this process profoundly. Balanced microbial communities support immune regulation, while imbalances can intensify inflammatory signals. By choosing the right strains when indicated and by reinforcing them with lifestyle practices, you create an internal environment that supports resilience rather than reactivity. There is empowerment in realizing that you are not at the mercy of fluctuating hormones. You are participating in a dynamic system that can adapt when given the right inputs. Precision replaces guesswork. Strategy replaces impulse, and patience replaces desperation. Instead of chasing trends, you evaluate evidence. Instead of reacting to every new symptom with a new supplement, you investigate patterns and root causes. This philosophy extends beyond probiotics. It becomes a mindset for aging well. You begin to understand that sustainable hormone balance is not achieved through isolated interventions, but through alignment. Alignment between your microbiome and your diet. Alignment between your stress levels and your recovery practices. Alignment between your goals and your daily habits. When those elements begin to work together, small improvements compound into meaningful change. The real transformation after 40 is not physical alone. It is intellectual and emotional. You become less susceptible to marketing noise and more committed to informed decisions. You recognize that taking a random high CFU probiotic is rarely the answer. Strain specificity, appropriate dosage, and a supportive internal environment matter far more than bold claims on a label. And once you grasp that truth, your health journey becomes calmer, more strategic, and more effective. Probiotics after 40 can absolutely play a valuable role in hormone support, but only when chosen with clarity and integrated into a comprehensive plan. Your body deserves that level of intention. Your future energy, resilience, and vitality depend on it. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early. When you pause long enough to ask these questions, your health journey shifts from reactive to intentional. And in that shift, you begin to realize that sustainable change does not come from noise. It comes from clarity, patience, and a willingness to understand your body's deeper signals. The real power lies not in taking more supplements, but in understanding what your body is communicating. After 40, wisdom becomes your greatest advantage. Instead of reacting impulsively to every new health trend, you have the opportunity to choose deliberately. Probiotics can be part of a smarter, science-based strategy for hormone support, but only when chosen with intention, guided by specific concerns, and supported by foundational habits like fiber intake, stress regulation, and metabolic stability. The question is no longer whether probiotics work. The question is whether you are ready to approach your health with clarity rather than assumption.